Alright. Okay, so let's see how this works. Okay, we're live. Hello everyone. Good morning. Time check, it's 10 a.m. and welcome to this Facebook live learning session, which is brought to us by Vibal and powered by Vibal. Technology and social media have enabled us to come together today, and despite these difficult and uncertain times, we're able to be with each other and we find ways to cope with the situation, and I'm very glad to be with you all this morning. Now, before we proceed and before I delve further into what we're going to share today, just a few reminders from our friends from Vibal Group. One is that you need to watch and share today's live session on your Facebook pages so people can also benefit from this live session and they can watch and we can expand our reach. And second, you need to use the hashtag LearnAsOnePH in your caption to get your digital certificate. So Vibal has been kind enough to allow us to receive digital certificates from our sessions or from these live learning sessions, but what you need to do is to use the hashtag, and I think you need to post a takeaway from the session, so you need to do that. And please be patient and be understanding because there are thousands of people who are tuning in, so just wait for your digital certificate. It will be sent to you through a personal message, if I'm not mistaken. So I hope you get to have that. Now, we're on the 5th weekend of the quarantine. It's been extended until the end of the month. I know that a lot of us have been coping with the situation in a lot of different ways. And today is a Saturday. It's the weekend. The day is supposed to be spent for sleep and rest, time with family, doing chores, sleeping in more. But I'm glad that you chose to tune in today. We'll be together for about 60 minutes, so for about an hour. We'll end at around 11, so I hope that you get to stay with us and with me for the rest of our session today. So, the topic that I thought of sharing this morning, well, my friends in Vibal told me that when they invited me to give the session, they told me, sir, you can think of the topics that you've given before so that you won't get to have a hard time preparing anymore. So I thought of that. The first time I rolled this session out was probably around 2018. It was with a group of school administrators from all over the Philippines. And I had actually a fun, insightful, and interactive session with them. So I hope it's the same way today. We'll get to have a lot of insights and a lot of perspectives regarding the topic, which is understanding and enabling millennials in the educational workplace. I've already introduced my topic, but I haven't introduced myself. My name is Mike Malicsi. I'm a teacher by passion, first and foremost. I graduated and finished a degree in education back in 2002. Currently, I am part-time lecturing in De La Salle and Ateneo. At the same time, and incidentally, I also practice human resource. So a huge part of me is in HR management, and another huge part of me is in education. So I'm blending these two roles together. What I'm covering today and for the next hour is when I thought of an apt and fitting title or topic for this session. It's not just about knowing millennials. It's not just about managing them, but it's about more to understand and to enable them. And by understanding them and understanding this group of people, we also understand ourselves. And in a similar way, then we also get to understand each other. Now, a very important item here, or the thing that we need to bear in mind, is that we have to keep an open mind or view about it. and the willingness to listen, to our colleagues and to the things that they might be able to contribute and share. And in turn, when we understand, when we listen, then we enable ourselves for the better of the communities we serve. Now, this is supposed to be a session that is contextualized in the educational workplace, but it's not just for people in schools, it's not just for people in academic settings, but it's also, I believe, for all of us, for anyone, for everyone of any generation at any workplace. So this is something that you can apply whether you're a teacher, you're in business, you're in a corporation, you're in a just about any different field out there. So I hope that we get to have a lot of insights from today. And please, if you want to comment and have some insights shared, we're on live right now, and you can comment and you can say something here. Oh, okay. Nawala daw. Hold on. Am I still on? Am I still on here? Hold on. Okay. All right. We're still on. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, let me start off with this phrase that kind of gained a lot of traction in social media. I'm sure some of you might have heard "Okay, Boomer." On one hand, okay, in an article by the New York Times, it's considered or viewed as something that might be offensive to some, especially those who are sensitive in age. But this was a phrase or a line that was given out by a few young ones who said, or as a response to some more advanced in age individuals, that the millennials right now, or Generation Z have that Peter Pan syndrome. You know, they don't want to grow up, and that they just refuse to grow further in their lives. So what they responded to was, they said, "Okay, Boomer." So this started in social media on TikTok, and probably this added fuel to the fire of a generational war. But when I was thinking about it, should there be one? Should there be a generational war? Because should people from generations or different generations be odds at each other? I don't think so. There shouldn't be a war. People should not go against each other just because they come from this generation and they come from another. So there shouldn't be, in my perspective. So when we talk about this kind of term, boomers, millennials, they refer not really to persons of specific age, of specific ages or specific age bracket, but they refer to a blanket term that talks about the predominant trends, values, and concerns of an entire generation. So being in a generation does not mean that it's about the age or it's about the year you were born. It's mostly about the trends and the values and the concerns that dominate our generation. All right, so that's how I want to start this one. Now, if you have a pen and a paper with you, I'd like you to go through these questions, all right, or go through these phrases and rate yourself what your perception will be. Yeah, it says here that I'm losing my connection. Am I live? Am I still on? All right. Okay, if I'm still on, please comment so I know if I can go on. Okay, I'm on. All right, thank you. So the first one is this: how would you perceive? So this is just a simple exercise, all right, for everybody. How would you perceive your attitude towards work assignments? So if you think that what you say is that if they say jump, I say hi, then you give yourself a 4. If they say jump, I think about it in a better way, and then I jump, then you give yourself a 3. Now, if they say jump, I want to know what's in it for me, then please rate yourself with 2. And then if you say, or if you think that your perception is that if they say jump, I say why, then you give yourself a 1. All right, so just a few seconds to, yeah. All right, next. Now, what do you think about the role of working women? Okay. If you think that women should stay home and raise the children, then you give yourself a 4. If you think that women have come a long way and they are capable of holding high-level positions within an organization, then you give yourself a 3, or rate yourself with 3. And then if you think that women should have the same opportunities as men in the workplace, then give yourself a 2. And then if you think that there's even no difference between men and women, then you give yourself a 1. All right. So please rate yourself. Okay. Now, what is your perception of work like? If you say that I'll work at the same company from cradle to grave, then give yourself 4. If you say that you'll work in a company or in a school well into your 60s and then maybe you do something else, then you give yourself a 3. If you say that you'll work at the job until something better comes along, then you give yourself a 2. And if you say that you will work as a place to have fun and experience all you could, then you give yourself a 1. All right? Okay, it says here that we're logging. Okay, but we're on, sorry. Okay, last one. Now, what is your attitude toward working hours? So if your attitude is that your working hours or working long hours means showing your commitment to your organization, showing that you're dedicated, and that your family will always be there, but the company may fail if I don't work hard. Sorry, I missed that out. Then you give yourself a 4. If you say that it's hard to balance work and family, but work should come before family, then you give yourself a 3. If you say that I'll work from 8 to 5 unless something very important comes up and flexibility on the job is really important to you, then you give yourself a 2. All right? And finally, you think about standard working hours. If there's really nothing important or interesting to do at work, then I should be able to go home. So you give yourself a 1. Now, you're supposed to have 4 ratings for yourself or for yourself. So please get the total of your ratings and let's see what your score is. Okay, let's give it a few seconds. All right, so okay, if you got a 16, then you're probably part of the mature generation or the traditionalists. If your score is between 11 to 15, then you're a boomer or you're a baby boomer. And then if you're between 10 to 14, then you could be a Gen X. And then if your score is between 5 to 9, then you're a millennial. So let's see what your scores are. Maybe you can comment your scores right now on our sessions on the comment page here. So maybe we can see what your scores are. Now, you know what's interesting here? When I rolled out this simple exercise to different audiences before, it was interesting, and I find it amusing that one or two probably got a score between 5 to 9, but they weren't born during those years that millennials were born. I think they were well into their 50s or their 60s. So it was interesting. And it goes back to our definition earlier that these generations, again, don't necessarily refer to age. All right, they don't refer to age. They really refer to how we see ourselves and how we play out our values and our concerns. So maybe this is something that we can consider. So we'll try to take a look at that. All right, now our world is changing. As it is, the way we live, the way we communicate, the way we interact, the way we do things. This pandemic that we are in right now, this crisis is also changing the way our way of life, and we are under extraordinary circumstances, and these circumstances create new norms in the way we communicate and interact. And as the world is changing, the way we create our touch points to different people is also changing, and the way we relate with them. Now, as I was going through social media over the last couple of weeks during this quarantine or lockdown period, I came across with this image. I'm not sure what your first phone was before when Nokia was still out there, but this image says, imagine if this lockdown or if this community quarantine happened probably about 18 years ago, and we have a 3310. There's no smartphone, there's no Android, there's no iPhone. We would be stuck at home with a Nokia 3310 or whatever, 5110 or whatever, with only 300 texts, no unlimited calls yet, probably just 100 minute calls, and a dial-up internet. You know, remember that when you used to dial it up and then you hear this sound before you can connect to the internet. So our world is changing, and our lives are changing so far as it is. Before also, I don't know if you know this guy. I think I know one of his songs. He's James Taylor. No, so for those who've been before us or who came before us, they know that this guy is James Taylor. But now if you ask the younger ones if they know James Taylor, they don't know James Taylor. They know another Taylor, and that's Taylor Swift. Yeah? Before, when we say bite, it's like, you know, we bite something before we chew it and then we eat it. Alright? Now when we talk about bite, it's now a unit of measurement. You know, it's a way to measure data. You know, it's a way when you're monitoring your data consumption, you look at the number of gigs that you've consumed. I'm not sure when the last time was when you wrote a letter. Before it was always, you know, we write a letter to each other, we snail mail it, we courier it, but now it's more like follow me on Twitter, because that's where we can connect, and that's where we can see each other, all right, and that's where we can interact. So, you know, you follow me on Twitter, and a lot of people use it as a platform to express themselves and to influence. You know, that's what they say about social media now. It's just a platform for you to influence. And then Apple before used to be just a fruit, all right. Now, in the last decade or so, Apple is a huge tech company now, producing tablets and phones. So it's really changing, you know. And then Yahoo was an expression. It was an interjection. So now, or before, you know, it became a prominent website for news and entertainment. So, and it is also an email platform. Slum book, yeah. You've probably written a slum book before, on a slum book, and you've written down your most embarrassing moment, your first crush, you know, your I don't know, a lot of these things, your favorite color, your favorite food, no? So now you rarely see people writing on slum books. I know I've seen some on bookstores before, but these are the modified slum books. Like they made it more interesting. So now everybody's on Facebook. You know, that's why you're here right now. I have thousands of there are thousands of followers and they get to share. Some are sad right now. So I don't know why they're sad. Maybe there's something going on, or maybe they have some thoughts in my head. But it's all on Facebook. We get to interact with people through Facebook. So the world is changing. A lot of things in our way of life are changing. So as we move along, okay, we get to look back to our colleagues, to our friends and our family members, and we see that they all come from different generations. Now, I'm not sure how visible this is for you, but in this infographic that I sourced out, before, if we look at these tiers, you have GI, or the GI generation, where who were born before 1936. They're probably about 76 and above right now. They encountered huge major world events such as the Second World War and the Great Depression, when the U.S. Economy collapsed. Their major traits would be that they're formal. They go for uniformity. They're very cooperative, and that they take public interest more than personal gain. And then there came the silent generation. They're probably between 67 to 75 now. And then the baby boomers, they were born 1946 to 1964. They like to explore, they're very optimistic, and they value their work a lot. And then the Gen X, between 36 to 47 now. So this is the advent of music television, MTV, when musicians and artists started to shoot their music videos. And they're very individualistic, and they're a flexible group of people, and they're kind of skeptical of authority. And then there came the millennials. So a lot of references say that millennials were born between 1977 to 94. Some say it's 90 to 93. It really there's a lot of references that give different kinds of ranges or brackets. But these are the ones now that are probably between 19 years old to 35, or to 38, such as myself, because I was born in 1981, so I might be considered as a millennial, but probably the more senior millennial. And this is the group of people that's very comfortable with technology. They're the digital natives. They don't have any problem about tinkering with laptops and with gadgets, having multiple screens with them. And then there's Gen Z, who were born between 1994 and later, or latest. So they're going through a lot of major events right now in the world. There was the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. There was a time that the market crashed, and now they're a bit mistrusting political systems because everything is being disrupted, and they'd like to be connected always through social media primarily, and through a lot of ways, and they're multitaskers. Now, the focus of this sharing, or of our session today, is the millennials. So millennials such as myself, probably I'm a hybrid between a Gen X and a millennial. So because in this infographic it says that they were born between 1980 all the way to about 97, or here it says 2000. But the millennials are also called the Gen Y. So the Gen Ys are the largest generation yet. In the US alone, there are about 80 million people. In the world, there's about 2.5 billion millennials, and they're the most ethnically and racially diverse group of people. And what characterizes them in a lot of ways is that there's a dominance of social networks in their midst. They have, there was Friendster before. I don't know how many of you had Friendster. There's no Friendster now. That was the very one of the first few forms of social media where you still get to write what do we call that, testimonials for your friends. So, but this is where our millennials dominate social media in their lives. They have LinkedIn right now. I'm sure you have LinkedIn. They have Skype. There's Instagram, where they get to upload stories about what they do, what they eat, where they are, their travels, and pretty much every single thing that they do. there's YouTube, Twitter, of course, and Facebook. Now, and the website why millennials matter. The question was answered by the fact that millennials matter because right now, this year, 2020, a year of many things, they're about 50% of the workforce, and come 2030, they will make up about 75% of the workforce. So they do matter. And in a nutshell, millennials aspire to make a difference in what they do, in their work, and the three things that define them or that characterize them. They're confident, they have high expectations, and they are driven by achievement. So, at this point, let me walk you through about who millennials are. And this is the part where I invite you to understand millennials so that, as I've said earlier, we understand them, we understand ourselves, and we understand each other. Okay, so who are they? Millennials want to grow. All right, that's the first thing that I want to say. Millennials want to grow, even if that means outgrowing the workplace, or in this context, outgrowing the school, outgrowing the educational workplace. That is why sometimes when they feel that they need to grow and that they want to move already, it is said that the average tenure of a millennial employee is about 2 years. So that's pretty short, and that's quick. In my first job, I stayed on in my first job for 10 years. That was one solid decade. I stayed there for 10 years. But there are those that cannot stay for that long, and there are many factors. And even if this is the average tenure of millennial employees, it doesn't mean that they're not loyal or that they cannot be loyal. Now, here's an insight. Millennials are not willing to stick around if they do not believe they are receiving any form or any sense of personal benefit or growth. And it's not being selfish, because the way they perceive personal growth or personal benefit is, of course, something that is directed towards them, but ultimately it will redound to the workplace that they serve, it will redound to the community that they serve. So if they see that there's an opportunity to grow and that there's a benefit for them, then it will, in the same way, in a similar way, benefit the workplace. Now, here's one thing that I want to share. One way we can understand millennials is that we shouldn't slow them down, and we have to give them challenging work. We have to encourage them to keep moving. Spark the fire in them, light that fire, because that fire will fuel them to do more, not just for themselves and not just for them to achieve personal growth, but for the community that they are in. That's very important. Now, another item here, and I think this goes the same for everyone as well. They want a coach, we want a coach, and not a boss. All right? That means being able to give greater accessibility to the leadership, whether you're the principal or the subject coordinator, or in other workplaces, whether you're the manager. All right? They want greater accessibility to the leadership, because they do not just want direction. They need and they want mentorship. All right? That means opening the door, all right, and having an open door policy if that's possible, because they want more than just direction. They want and they desire guidance. And if you take a look at the work environment, so you have a millennials work environment. Many factors contribute to the environment, many things surround it, but if you provide that environment with support, with enough support to empower them and to enable them, and when you feel, or when you make them feel that they are valued and that there's a sense and there's meaning to what they do, then that would lead hopefully to an increased productivity in the workplace and also valuable relationships. And when there's increased productivity in the workplace, and when the relationship among colleagues is valuable and that they hold that they're held in high regard, then it benefits the workplace, it benefits the school, it benefits the business, it benefits the organization. So this is very important as well. Now, another matter here is that they don't want to waste time on little things, probably because they want things that matter. They want balance and democracy. They're involved more in doing output rather than the time that they spend on it, because again, as what we've said earlier, they're achievement oriented and they're high powered to achieve and do more. So they want to get output and they want to fulfill a task or get things done. So what are these things that matter? The things that matter for millennials, and I suppose for a lot of us also, is that these things should give them purpose. It should give them a sense of fulfillment, a sense of being, and a sense of meaning. And we should be able to create a balance between being managed and being autonomous. So we wouldn't always, I don't know, maybe it works two ways. We wouldn't want to be someone's nose, to be under someone's nose a lot of the time. We want to have a free space and a free an elbow room to do our own magic. You know, we got to do our own magic. And when we are able to create this, and when we are able to give them this balance and democracy, they no longer work for you. That's not the perception anymore. They no longer work for you. They work with you. And with is a huge, it's hugely different from for. When you say I work with you, that means we're collaborating, we're cooperating because we want to achieve our goals, not just for ourselves, but for the community or for the organization or for the school. Now, a second part here is, what do millennials bring? What will they bring? All right. One is that they'll set a new standard of leadership. And what does that mean? Millennial leaders right now, you know, a lot of groups right now, you would see on the news and on social media that there's a lot of startups. There are a lot of people who are finding their own way and putting up their own, carving their own niche for themselves, because they're brave and they're bold, they're courageous to do things their own way. They don't want to be employed, but they want to be their own bosses or their own coaches and their own leaders. So millennial leaders hold in high regard values, ethics, flexibility, and feedback. So if our framework of leadership will not blend with what they perceive to be as leadership, then it might create some sort of gap, which we need to bridge, because these millennials will hold stronger convictions. And I'm sure that you've seen it. You've seen it on social media probably. You've seen it with colleagues. Stronger convictions mean there's a stronger and a greater expression of these convictions. That's why when social media came out, it was so easy for us to vent out and to rant. I mean, you know, that's another story. There should still be responsibility in social media, of course. You know, there should be responsible expression and self-expression. But we have to consider that millennials will hold stronger convictions. Now, what else will they bring on the table? They will start preparing for Gen 2. And what is Gen 2? Then that's the Gen Z now. Or you know, after millennials and the Gen Ys, there will be, or the Gen Z is in our midst already. So they will start preparing for it, for them, not to be a threat, you know, not to feel that as a threat, but they will be more embracing. They will welcome these Gen Zs, and they will push harder for diversity and inclusion. And that means when they see that there's diversity and inclusion, then millennials may be ready to settle down and start showing more employer loyalty. So earlier we said that millennials might have or might stay shortest 2 years in a workplace, but it's not always true, or it's not always going to happen. But because when they see that there's value in what they do, and then that there's diversity and inclusion in the workplace, then they will start showing more employer loyalty. Now, in a nutshell, okay, just a few words here, or just a few items to share about who millennials are. One is that they're continuous learners. So this means, sorry, I need to pick this up. This means they'd like to pursue graduate studies. They'd like to go take up a master's and eventually a PhD for everybody. And there's scholastic learning. They're collaborators or team players, and they'd like to work in groups, and they're always excited to work in groups. They're happy when they're with their peers and when they were with their colleagues. They're collaborators because they take pride in group work, and when that group is able to achieve something, is able to contribute to the organization, then they take pride in that, and they're very happy with that. They're very diverse. They welcome and embrace all colors and hues, all sorts of orientation, all sorts of faiths and religion. So that's how they are. They welcome and embrace everyone. They're optimistic, so they hold a positive disposition. And as we've said earlier, they're achievement oriented, and that they would like to pursue bigger things. And they're socially conscious. Now, this might be highly contested. What does being socially conscious mean? Socially conscious means not just being conscious of how you look or what you eat or what you do or how you walk, how you talk, but it's more about being socially responsible. What can I do for the society? What can I do for my community? What can I do for the people around me? And I think a lot of people have stepped up, especially during this crisis. So social consciousness also means social responsibility. And of course, they're highly educated because they're continuous learners, and they will always gun for lifelong learning. Now, one part earlier was for us to understand millennials. And in understanding them, we understand ourselves so that we can understand each other. Now, when we achieve or when we reach that certain point of understanding, then we can enable them. And by enabling them as enablers, we can also empower them. So how do we empower our millennial colleagues and our millennial friends? In the same way that we can also empower ourselves. One is that we need to provide a structure. Some key insights here. One is that they really don't like to be boxed in. They don't want to feel that they're strangled or there's not enough breathing space for them to be creative, for them to be flexible. And when we empower them, we let them sail on their own. You give them a boat, you give them a rudder, you give them a lifesaver or whatever so that they can navigate the water or the ocean. But eventually, all right, they would want to come back to the shore. All right, they would want to know where to put their anchors down. So we will need to provide structure, and by providing structure, that means we need to be able to define assignments very clearly and what are the indicators of success. So these are very important. And as much as they don't want to be boxed in, they still need structure. And to that effect, they need leadership. All right? They need coaching, and they want to look up to you. So that's a key insight there. They want to look up to you. They want to learn from you. They want to learn from us. And they would appreciate receiving feedback. All right? So that means we should be able to plan and spend a lot of time teaching, coaching them how they can be better at their craft, and how they can also raise awareness. Raise awareness about how they can better themselves and how they can improve as teachers or as professionals for that matter. Now, another way that we can enable them is to encourage a can-do and positive image. They can do it. There's no stopping them in what they want to achieve for the school. Maybe we can welcome some dissent. I don't know. We can welcome encouragement for them. We encourage them. We shouldn't really squash or contain them because when we do that, then we open a forum. We open a forum for healthy conversations and to engage in healthy discussions. And also that is when we become friendly critics to each other. So probably it might be good to consider that we should always take the merits of each other. No matter what generation you are, you always consider what each one has to say. So this is very important for our millennial colleagues. So we encourage them to voice out their thoughts and opinions, but in a responsible manner, of course. I always go for responsibility, so we need to encourage them to voice their thoughts and opinions responsibly. How else we can enable them? We need to take advantage of their comfort level with teams. As I've said earlier, they are collaborators and they like to, and they're excited to work in teams. What are their insights? What are the insights here? One is that they're used to working in groups and teams, and they believe that a team can accomplish more and they can accomplish better. So it's more of a community orientation that they can achieve. And this means that we mentor them and we coach them, we train them how they can work best together as a team, and we encourage them to join and open themselves up to teams and groups and be dynamic in that community. And of course, we need to be able to provide an environment that stresses teamwork, because as we've said earlier, millennials are team players in the same way that we should also consider ourselves to be team players. This is very important. We need to be able to listen to the millennial teacher or to the millennial professional, all right? And what are the insights here? One is that they have ideas and opinions. They don't take kindly to having their thoughts ignored, and I think no one wants to be ignored. Truth be told, we always want to be listened to, but it's also very important that we need to listen. They say listening is very important in relationships. When we get to listen to each other, then we are able to open ourselves to conversations, to healthy conversations and discussions. And sometimes, or more often than not, human conflict is caused mostly because we fail to listen. So we need to be able to listen. And listening requires energy and discipline, yet it also empowers. So let's listen more. And let's listen more actively to our colleagues and to our friends and to our family members. And then the sixth point here is that we need to challenge and change. All right? The insight here is that we need to be able to create ever-changing and dynamic tasks within their work. All right? Because sometimes, routine becomes more boring, or probably it becomes makes us function like robots, I think. So we need to be able to create dynamic and ever-changing tasks. Burnout is real in every workplace. I remember a very good friend and a colleague of mine, probably about 3 years into teaching before, she told me that she wants to seek something new already, because she's been teaching the same subject matter for 3 years already, so she wants to experience something else, and it's real. So that means we need to challenge and we need to change. How else we can enable them? Millennial teachers are multitaskers. They can do several things in one sitting. They can read a book, they can listen, and I think it goes for some of the younger ones that we know. Sometimes it's amazing and it's amusing that they have several screens right now. I mean, I have 3 screens in front of me right now, including my phone that tracks the time. But they're multitaskers, so we take advantage of that. And we also take advantage of their digital or electronic literacy. They know how to do a lot, or how to manipulate a lot of gadgets, a lot of applications, and I think we can also see that in young ones. The little ones, they already know how to take photos of ourselves. So we take advantage of that for our millennial colleagues, and just about for any digital natives in the workplace. So it will benefit us when they create these digital materials, especially in this period of blended learning, where we blend our digital our references and our resources with our educational or instructional content. Um, this is also very important. My ninth insight is that we need to be able to provide a life work balance and blend. I think it's not just millennials, but all of us. We value home, we value family, and we cherish being able to spend time with children and friends. These are our priorities, of course, because we want to experience that our lives blend well with the work that we do. And so, a key insight here is that we should be able to create balanced and multiple activities for our colleagues and for our workmates that allow them to enjoy their work and as much as they can enjoy their work and their family time and their personal time. And this means being able to provide a fun and employee or teacher centered workplace. A key insight here is that they want to enjoy their work and be with their friends in the workplace. So that means being able to help long term teachers make room for millennials. So in this case, we need to mind the gap. As someone who understands millennials and as someone who can listen to them, especially for various colleagues, then we need to bridge the generational divide. We need to be able to bridge that gap. We need to be able to mind that gap. And this means serving as a mentor, serving as a professional buddy where we get to confluence. You learn from me and I learn from you. That's the way to go. This is not about who's better. It's not about who has who has better qualifications. It's not about who has longer experience. It's about learning from each other. And in that way, then we are able to make room for the younger ones, to new members of our organization. And we are enabling them in that way. Now, that's the part where we enable them. And I'd like to share with you at this point. I have 12 minutes. I hope to finish this very soon. Diane Spiegel, the author of the Gen Y Handbook, applying relationship leadership to engage millennials. All right. This is based on her framework, but I coined this code, as we can see in the screen, 2C, 2M. And what is that? Okay, 2 C's because there's coaching. All right. We mentor our colleagues and the people we work with. It doesn't have to be time consuming. A quick 5-minute coaching session, kumustahin natin sila, how they're doing, or it's not just about how they're doing, but also telling them that they've done a good job for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long, dragging mentoring session. These little small things, these little gems will matter. So QR, quick response, send them a text message, send them a PM, send an email, engage in a 2-minute convo. That's how we coach. All right. And as we mentioned earlier, there's collaboration. And when we collaborate, then that means we need to make our purpose and our goal clearly understood. And this is very important. We need to be clear with any deadlines. Give a specific date, or maybe agree on, can we achieve this on a certain time frame, whether it's short notice or you have ample time. Be a bit democratic, and at the same time exercise authority, and that we're able to establish boundaries. All right. 2 M's. Okay. Measure and motivate. Okay. How do we measure? We measure when we are able to measure when we define clear and consistent assessment criteria. So lay them down clearly. What are the performance indicators? How will we assess the success of this activity or of this project? Now, in the work or in the educational workplace, it's pretty straightforward. Sometimes it involves, it's multifaceted. It involves your teaching excellence, or your mastery of the subject matter, and your compliance or adherence to administrative tasks. And of course, there's motivate. or motivation, where we are able to give incentives or create a special event to celebrate the success of every person in the workplace. So with this framework, then we can attract, develop, and retain our teachers, our millennial teachers, or whatever generation they come from, and that they will get to stay with us in the school. You know, right now, it just came to mind. I remember also a colleague. She's now retired, but during the time that I was a neophyte teacher, she was already 40 plus years in the teaching profession. So that was really inspiring for me, because it spoke about, or it spoke of her loyalty and her dedication, not just to the institution, but to the profession and to the teaching profession. And even now in my corporate work, I encounter employees who have been with the company for more than 20 years and close to 30 years. So there must be something good, and they must see something good in the organization or in what they do, and it applies to everyone. All right, now my last the last part here, all right, is an action plan for everybody. It's not just for millennials, it's not just for the Gen Zs, not just for the baby boomers, it's for all of us, so that we can have a more harmonious and more productive workplace and organization. Now, the first is on the category of managing. Now, what do we do, or what do we need to do to manage well? Not just millennials, but everyone. We describe the result that we're looking for, all right? That's one thing that we need to do. And then we let them figure out how they can get there, how they can achieve it. Because everybody has their own way of doing things. Everybody has their own creativity. They have their own magic to do things. And then we shorten the feedback loop, okay? Please, let's not take time to give feedback. As I said earlier, QR, or a quick response, feedback is important. Sometimes when you send an email with an attachment of something that you've worked so hard for, it gave you sleepless nights, and then you sent it to your superior or to your head, and you never heard back. Or maybe you did hear from him or her, but it was like, okay, I acknowledge receipt, I received it, and that's it. That's how you hear. You know, it kind of dampens the spirit. So we need to be able to provide. Provide feedback. Are we there? Okay, provide feedback and shorten the loop. So as much as possible, let's be quick in providing this feedback, because they're used to feedback, and not just feedback, but constant feedback. So our millennials are used to constant feedback. Now, the next one, I think this is also very important in every workplace. I think I did remember some fellow teachers and some colleagues who've attended the same session with me in the past. Sinasabi nila sa akin, "Sir, parang napansin namin yung mga younger teachers namin, ang bilis nilang umalis, you know." Maybe there are many factors, you know, and I acknowledge that. There are many factors that contribute to that. So how do you reduce turnover and attrition? First is that we create a career path with a time frame short enough for them to envision. What's in it like for them for the next 3 years, 5 years? What's going to be their growth? What's going to be their trajectory? And along the way, then we reward their small successes. We celebrate each win, whether it's big or whether it's small. All right, it's very important that we reward these things. And reward doesn't always have to come in the form of a pay raise or taas ng sweldo and all that. Of course, it's very important, you know, but the little rewards may be, you know, simpleng pamerienda, simpleng, you know, the small gestures, they matter, and they will feel that the work has been recognized, it is valued. So that's also very important. Now, sorry, did I cover everything? Sorry, okay, I missed out some slides, but let me go to this one. Motivation, as I mentioned earlier, we provide recognition as a reward. They view jobs as something to do between weekends, so we get to reward them and we motivate them that in between weekends, all right, we'll do something that's significant. We'll do something that will make you feel fulfilled and that will give meaning to what you do. Um, I missed this one. I don't know how, but yeah, it's here. What about our relationship with the superior? All right. Firstly, we have to win each other's affection, and this is not about playing. I don't know. It's Filipino term. It's not about making sip, or it's not about. It's not about that. It's about winning their affection, because when we have each other's emotional ties and emotional connections, then we are able to work well in harmoniously. But we have to be careful. We have to be both cautious and conscious. We have to draw the fine line between superior to advocate and superior as friends. So, because remember, familiarity breeds contempt. So we have to draw that fine line. Yes, we can win each other's affection, but we have to draw that fine line. All right? And one thing I'd like to share here is that millennials would want a tight bond with a superior who is close, affectionate, passionate, caring, and is aware of what is happening. But then again, I'd like to emphasize the fine line is very important. All right? We cannot be too overly familiar with each other, because that might cause or create conflict. All right. Now, the last part here is giving out some scenarios. Probably we take this two way. One is that this might be me as a millennial, or this might be someone I know, or this might be someone I've encountered. So what do we do? So I'd like to end with this last part with a few cases, but these are contextualized in the workplace. So we see, let's try to reflect on what we need to do if we're in this situation, both as the one who might be in that situation as a doer, or maybe someone who is observing it from a distance, or from a vantage point, or from the perspective of a leader, or of a head, or of a principal, a coordinator, a manager. All right. I don't know. A lot of you might react again, because I've been seeing a lot of reactions here. So again, as I've said earlier, open mind. All right, because we would want to understand each other, and we can disagree. We can agree to disagree. You can put in your comments, and I'd like to have a healthy conversation with everyone. Now, the first scenario is this. Addie, all right, is a very valuable asset to the faculty roster. Now, since she started teaching, she had been assigned under a coordinator who was a dedicated mentor to her. Okay, when the new school year was about to start, you as a principal, or as the head of the school or director, you announced that a new coordinator will be assigned to Addie's department. Now, what was the result? In private, she goes to you, all right? She seeks an audience with you, and she immediately lets you know of her apprehension about the change. All right? I'm not going to prescribe anything here that you need to do. I want you to reflect on it as teachers, as professionals. I want you to come up with a certain way on how you will address this. Whether you're the one who's in the situation, or whether you're the one managing the situation. Okay, second scenario. Marvin, all right, is a 24-year-old faculty member, and he has proven to be diligent, effective, and a highly engaging teacher. He is well liked by his students, and a proof of that is his constant stellar rating on the annual performance, or the performance evaluation for that school year, or for that working year. However, this is the situation. After just 3 years of teaching, he expressed to you that he's starting to feel burned out, primarily because he feels that he's getting bored with the subject that he's been teaching since he started. Now, he's thinking of shifting to corporate work and leaving the teaching profession, or leaving the school. So, how do you think you should handle that? How do you think you can coach him? How can you mentor him? So, reflect on this scenario. All right. Third to the last one. Okay, this might spark a lot of reactions again. We'll see. I don't know. Debbie. Okay, these are all fictional names. All right. And there's no way that they're related to someone you know personally. Okay, so Debbie is very active on social media. Now, she chronicles or she documents almost all her activities all the time. She checks into the places she goes to and posts a lot of her photos. What she eats, where the places she goes to, she checks in. And these photos, while are decent, might include some occasional parties or night outs probably. She says that her digital activity makes her feel connected to family and friends. Now, she admits to accepting friend requests from her students because she also wants to be connected with them. Okay, so how would you deal with the situation? I know a lot of schools and a lot of organizations have social media policies already, but let's see how we can look at this and how we can address this. Okay, sorry, this is second to the last one. Okay. I know a lot of teachers can relate to this because accreditation is a huge task for you guys. So what about when accreditation is forthcoming in the school? Now, as the school director, as a school head, you need to thoroughly prepare for this as you are eyeing being granted a higher level in the accreditation. Now, because you want to ensure a successful and seamless process during the accreditation, you tapped the more senior faculty members. More senior, all right? No offense there, okay? That's why I put the quotation marks. The more senior faculty members to compose several committees. Now, on the other hand, the millennial or the younger teachers were asked to focus on their instructional delivery. So what is your comment on this approach or on this scenario? What will you do? How will you make it better, okay? And the last one, the faculty room in your school has had the same look, all right? The same features and arrangement since it was built and developed. Now, admittedly, after many years, it has become rather glum and gloomy, all right? Now, teachers are provided a cubicle each, and that's all there is. Now, while most teachers stay and spend their break time at the faculty room, you notice that your millennial or your younger teachers prefer not to work there. Now, they always ask permission to stay at the cafe outside the school or somewhere else or somewhere outside the faculty room. So how do you deal with the situation or this scenario? All right, so that concludes our sharing today. I hope that in one way or another we were able to learn from each other. I will go through your comments here and your reactions. I can see different reactions of all sorts. There are people who loved it. There are people who are sad. There are people who are laughing. There are people who are mad. So we can continue the conversation. We can have a healthy discussion about this. If there's anything that you wish to share with me, I'll be glad to hear from you. But in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for tuning in on this Facebook Live Learning session brought to you by Vibal. And I'd like to end by saying that no matter what we're going through right now, life goes on and love never ends, all right? And because love never ends, we should love what we do, love the people we work with, and we love the reason we do it. So thank you very much. And just before I go, again, just a few reminders, all right? Use hashtag #LearnAsOnePH in your caption. I think you need to write down your takeaway from this session, and you will get your digital certificate. And I ask everybody to please be patient and wait understandably for your certificates, because Vibal is going through a lot, thousands of people for their certificates. And we can continue the conversation, as I've said earlier. We can talk more. You can connect with me via email. That's my email address, and we can connect on LinkedIn, and maybe we can share messages on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer. So thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless all of you. Bye.